All right. Thank you, Todd. Like the other task groups that have gone thus far, the Habitat task group is no different. We are fueled by collaboration and partnerships, and you can see the long list of agencies that are involved in this. And this is, especially for the Habitat task group, is not all inclusive. We have local government and non-government folks that we're working with also. So keep that in mind. What I'm going to talk about is assembled by folks from these agencies, but there's a lot of other folks on the ground helping deliver these habitat projects. So first, we're going to go through kind of the task group membership. Again, highlighting partnerships and who's included in all of this. Amanda Popovich is the co-chair of this task group, along with myself. This is our first year doing this, so hopefully we're doing a good job. If not, don't tell us. So as you can see, we have representation from all the states and Ontario, as well as several federal entities, including U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, 2 USGS offices under the Great Lakes Science Center, and NOAA GLERL. So for this talk, it's going to be kind of broken into 2 parts. One's going to be kind of short, the other a little longer. First, we're going to talk about the priority management areas exercise, which a lot of you have probably heard about for several years. Then we're also going to get into project highlights, highlighting some of the habitat restoration and assessment projects in Lake Erie over the last little bit of time. So the priority management areas started with biological information on life stages, critical components related to habitat, impediments to restoration, and then the identification of remediation actions, which then fed into working with LEC to identify the species and which species were priorities and the locations that were also priorities, which has then been used to create this, what is called the monster, which as I've become more familiar with it, is pretty scary. So that's appropriate. I can say that. And so from that, there's been this output of prioritization of actions and areas, which of course was derived from LEC. So to give you kind of an idea of where things are right now with this is the current version of the Lake Erie Priority Management Areas viewer. This is kind of one little row selected to kind of show you what it looks like. This is illustrated in our Shiny environment, which is really great for viewing data. As you can see, this is, there we go, juvenile yellow perch in the West Basin, open reef habitat, and you can see a priority score there and a limiting habitat component for that life stage. So this is great for viewing, but we're also going to try, kind of in terms of next steps, try to get this in more of an ArcGIS framework, which is also great for viewing, but a little easier to use. And also links up better with the Great Lakes Aquatic Habitat Framework. So those are kind of next steps on the geospatial part of this. And also we're kind of working to review, update, and refine kind of what we have. And so there are going to be some jurisdictional work groups coming up this year to help get at that. All right, moving away from the monster. Then we're going to highlight some of the projects that are ongoing or completed. And we're going to start, this is kind of broken into 2, I think, steps. The first one's habitat assessments. And so first we're going to get into kind of some habitat suitability, index development, and mapping exercises. So if you're not familiar with this, it's kind of taking a bunch of information to make, kind of like Zach was saying, like kind of one thing that you can look at to summarize. And so substrate, water depth, water velocity all go into this habitat suitability index modeling framework. And from that you get kind of a score for how suitable a given habitat patch is. And so one application of this was lake sturgeon in the Cuyahoga River. And you can see this is broken out by age 0, so fish before their first birthday, and spawning adults, total area in hectares. And I had to look to see what a hectare was, and it's about 2.5 acres, if you're interested in acres. And so this is also broken out by spring discharge percentile. So this is the median percentile of spring flow, and 25 and 75th percentiles as well. And you can see blue indicates the amount of poor habitat, yellow moderate, and green good. So from this, the Cuyahoga across discharge percentiles has a lot of good habitat, a fair amount of moderate habitat, very little poor habitat. For spawning adults, there's a lot more moderate habitat than good, but still a lot of good habitat for spawning lake sturgeon. And so from that, a lot of folks in the room were involved with, based on this finding that there is good habitat for lake sturgeon. There was some work in the Cuyahoga River to stock lake sturgeon, and I think it was 2,000 fish stocked in 2025. And there's also been fish stocked in the Maumee and Sandusky rivers. The Sandusky River was the first time that lake sturgeon had been stocked there. So a good example of on-the-ground research yielding a conservation measure. So similarly, there was some habitat suitability work in the Sandusky and Maumee rivers for sauger. You can see here that work yielded that there's quite a bit of spawning habitat in the Maumee, 319, I think these are acres. Yeah, total acres, there we go. In the Sandusky, 36 acres, but notably in both places, there's limited overlap with walleye habitat. And so from that, the Ohio DNR is going to be working to stock 500,000 fingerlings annually to reestablish the self-sustaining population. And sauger production and hatcheries in 26 and 27 are going to start yielding some pilot stockings here soon. So this is the one project I think I'm involved with. So if you have questions, this is a good one to ask about. But so in response to a document published by GLFC on declining whitefish recruitment, we looked through that and thought, well, somebody can measure some of this stuff. Why shouldn't it be us? And one of the things that they noted could influence whitefish recruitment could be ice cover and how it could protect developing whitefish from wind-driven currents and waves and that sort of thing. So we sought to measure currents and waves and ice over the winter during ice and ice-free conditions. And we started this last winter, and we've been very fortunate to have 2 very icy winters. Everybody else is sad it's cold. I'm like, this is great. More cold. So we have 3 of these tripod moorings with an acoustic Doppler current profiler right there. That's a pop-up buoy. And so we've dropped 3 of these on the bottom of the lake, and they're pinging all winter to measure velocity, water velocity, waves, ice, and all that sort of stuff. And so we don't have any finalized data to show you yet, but kind of some preliminary data. This is ice coverage percentage at Niagara Reef. You can see as we got into January, ice cover went up and kind of stayed up for a while and then came back down. Looking at wave heights at Niagara Reef, we can see kind of these wavy periods. Once the ice is on, the waves are done, and then they come back once the ice is gone. So we're pretty excited to look more into this and analyze more of our data. All right, habitat restoration projects. Let me check time real quick. All right, so there have been 2 projects that were highlighted by the task group in Sandusky Bay. So one is this Pickerel Creek Barrier Island Wetland and Floodplain Restoration Project. There was an island built just off the shore there of Pickerel Creek Wildlife Area, and this will help reduce erosion by protecting the shoreline. And there's also this Cedar Point Causeway Wetland Project where 2 cells were created, and this provided a place to deposit dredge spoils. This is a completed project. The Cedar Point Causeway Wetland is ongoing. Some trees have taken over the wetlands, and so removal of those trees has kind of slowed things down a little bit, but there are plans to breach the wetlands, but the timing of that is currently unknown. Moving over to the Maumee River AOC. The task group highlighted 4 projects. One is in Germain Park on the Ottawa River. That project focused on stream restoration, restoring the floodplain, and creating or enhancing some wetlands. I believe that project is completed. There's also this project in the Maumee River with the Clark and Delaware Horseshoe Islands, and that is about 16 miles up the Maumee River, and that project is also completed and should result in some nice wetland habitats and kind of protect that island from degradation. There's also in Duck Creek, which is in the Collins Park area of Toledo, a stream restoration that's, I think, beginning in spring of 2026. And there's also this project near the Ottawa National Wildlife Refuge, which will create some wetland habitats at a former muskrat farm and will reconnect the wetland to Packer Creek and the Toussaint River. All right, so moving to Lake St. Clair, this is Brandenburg Park. You can see this is pre-restoration. We have this failing seawall. Using some wood and rocks and removing the failing seawall, we now have this nice habitat with a lot of vegetation. In 2025, this is in Anchor Bay of Lake St. Clair. And there's already been kind of an observable biological response. So this project was completed in 21, and you can already see that the Shannon Diversity Index has gone up basically within a year. So staying in Michigan, but moving kind of down toward the Huron River, Flat Rock Dam and the Huron Dam Fish Passage Project is one that the Flat Rock Dam was identified as a priority by Flat Rock Dam removal was identified as a priority by LEC. And this is rated a very high priority in the PMA. And so there was some support from GLFC to do a feasibility project for fish passage at these sites. But there was kind of some hesitancy from some of the stakeholders to remove the dams. So currently this is in kind of a sorting out period with folks trying to figure out what's an appropriate fish passage solution at these sites. All right, dam removal. So another kind of dam removal project is the Gorge Dam removal in the Cuyahoga River AOC. So this dam was built in 1913 as a hydropower dam. Unfortunately, it has not been used for hydropower production since the 50s. And it was listed as critical for remediation of the Cuyahoga River area of concern. But unfortunately, there was some contaminated sediments that are in the process of being removed. But it's important because it's been fragmenting fish connectivity for more than 100 years. So the benefits of this removal would include water quality, recreation. As you can see, this was once a very, very scenic spot. Of course, it's kind of unknown during the dam building process what might remain from this. A lot of times during the creation of these dams, they'll blast that out to kind of give themselves a little more room. And so it's a little unclear what fish passage might look like, but this could potentially open up 8 river kilometers of the Cuyahoga River. And there are some USGS and EPA fish telemetry projects looking at connectivity and exchange up and downstream of this site. So kind of a status update on this. Dredging began last summer and it's continuing this year. And so until the dredging is completed, removal time's kind of to be determined. So keep an eye out for that. Moving to our state of the lake reporting, we have one thing that we're responsible for, and that's tracking this Lake Erie Environmental Objective 5.2, which is increased shoreline nearshore complexity through softening of shorelines, rehabilitation of connected coastal wetlands, and increases in submerged aquatic vegetation. We are not aware of any existing data sources that have summarized this, so we're kind of in a spot where we're trying to figure that out. So we don't have an evaluation at this time, but this is something that we're working on to try to get a metric that we can put forth. So, all right. So if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. But again, not very closely involved in all these projects, but most or all of them are described in the task group report. So with that, glad to take any questions.